The Tree of Life and the 22 Creative Forces. The first path is Aleph. It's primal and principal power behind all creation. It's located between Keter and Kukma. Aleph describes the principal and primary force of creation. Aleph is symbolized as an ox employing a great and powerful force. Aleph represents the first and only creative force, where all preceding creative forces are simply different states that this original force can move into. This primal state of pure beingness, it is not a force in action. In fact, it's not doing anything. It is the essence of infinite potential in perfect stillness. It represents perfection beyond human comprehension. The second path is Beth. This is the first action in the creation process. Beth can be observed as the start of the story of creation. The first letter is silent, the beginning of duality, seeing both the creator and created. Beth is represented by a house as it implies the idea of a container or vessel by which the created world may come into being, just as the body is the container for the soul. It is the idea of a container, though nothing is contained. The same unmoving power as Aleph, but no, it is aware. It may organize itself in some way. It represents the basis of the awareness of multiplicity within unity. The third path is Gimel, which is expansion. An expansion of that before it. The essential consciousness was formed both beyond and inside itself. Gimel emerges as the third and unifying pathway, resolving and harmonizing the opposites between the first two, forming a safe link. Gimel relates with camel, this self-sufficient animal that travels for days across the desert, which was uncrossable in ancient times. Gimel crosses the pathway of Kukma and Bina, referred to as the abyss. This process of consciousness traversing the abyss is also referred to as the dark night of the soul, a period of suffering or facing one's own death, after which the soul dissolves into unity and emerges enlightened. Gimel is a symbol of the expansion of civilization and creation through different states of being. It may also represent the spirit of giving and receiving, the unification of opposites, and the deep intuition of justice, just simply knowing. The fourth path is Dalet. Dalet is dimension, humility, and reception. Dalet is the pathway of dimension and is also seen as the pathway of humility and reception. Dalet relates to a door and embodies the idea of shape and the idea of going through. A door is a gateway to a solid object like a wall. Esoterical, a door is a special kind of void that you can pass through from one state to another. This is a place on the tree of life where we now have dimensions moving between states where we only had pure energy and its expansion. Daleth represent nullification of the ego in the presence of the spirit and how to return to the source. The fifth path, Hay, which means point of view. Hay is symbolized by a window and represents a point of view. It is a window to divine revelation or a perspective that has to do with the way you express yourself. It is the concept of looking but not looking at anything because nothing has actually manifested yet. In this region of the tree of life, put simply, this path represents the perspective and observing capacity within creation and the expression of this core perceptive setting things in motion. We can relate to this to quantum physics. We can relate to this to quantum physics, where we learn that simply observing something affects both us and the results of what becomes manifested. From the perspective of God, you might consider that setting a perspective on something sets things in motion to the creative process. This letter symbolizes the effortlessness of the world and the symbol of divinity. The sixth path is Va, learning and teaching of cosmic law. Bob is the pathway of learning and teaching of cosmic law. It is the sixth path, and so the bender or binder and unifier of energy. Ba often mean nail or sometimes hook or anchor, which is meant to represent the thing that join other things together and hold them in that state. This is cosmic principle that allows atoms to cause bonds together and create molecules. At an ethereal level, nothing is manifested yet. This is the power of the Creator to enter into the world. It represents the geometry of the Merkaba and the connection between heaven and earth. On the seventh path, Zayin. Zayin means sword or weapon and often relates to the concept of a tool. The concept has to do with the concept power unused, like a swan who meditates with his sword, like a samurai who meditates with his sword, unmoving but focused. The ability for spirit to actually build and materialize things now exists. This is the concept of movement and the struggle between balance and opposing forces, including the awareness of being a unified spirit and an individual soul at the same time. On the eighth path, Shet, boundary layer, Chet has several main descriptions. The most common is that of a fence or ladder, sometimes also described as a hedge, meaning a boundary by which the creation can become manifested within, and ladder is a fence or its side delineating the multiple dimensional boundary that is being created. The concept of fence and ladder are interesting too because with a simple twist, The two changes into that of DNA. This is relative to the concept of Jacob's ladder, which comes from the Bible. We can connect Shet with the ability to go above and beyond our earthly limitations. Ninth, Pep, Tep, which represents polarities, which is good and evil by the nature of the serpent being both related to the Oribus, a symbol of wholeness and infinity, and the serpent in the Garden of Eden in Genesis. The imagery of a basket of this is representative of the open container as opposed to the closed container and manifestation of each unique soul in the process of creation. Teth also represents mud, the birth of destiny and mass, though still nothing is manifested, but now the energetic substance of creation now comes into being, like unused clay before the sculpture gives it form. This letter teaches us to distinguish what we perceive to be good and bad, to strive for the purity of that which is holy and good in our lives. 10th, Yud, operation and operator. Yud relates to the hand and speaks to the operation and operator of the world. Building up on what comes before, there was an ethereal pool that can be used to create things, the primordial mud that can be shaped, and now Yud, which is the hand of the operator, which was creative power and the intelligence to know how to use the primordial mud which came before. It is the power of spirit to govern and guide the material it created. The yud is drawn as a dot, a flare and a dot, and describes that creation came from a single point. The singularity is the essence of all of life. This may be experienced as the singularity in our heart, which brings light into our bodies, and this is the same power of spirit to govern and guide the material universe. 11. Kaf, all creative possibilities, including physical matter, but not limited to. Kaf relates to the palm of the hand and makes like an outstretched palm waiting to receive, or an upright palm held high like a crossing guard, moving traffic, or like pushing or invoking something to happen. It is similar to the idea of a container, or relates more to the potential of possibilities of that which can be received by matter, but with the power of spirit, and likewise the ways spirit can move matter. It relates to the beginning of formation or things made more solidified. Now that there is primordial mud and the intelligence of knowing how to use it, this is the actual motion of creation itself. This path holds the space for all creative possibilities, including physical matter. Kaf teaches us to shape our character continually, refine ourselves, and bring spirit into the material world.